Andy here again, another quick video, and this is I'm only going to go through 5 records with a couple of honourable mentions, and the connection between them is they're all issued on clear vinyl. And I confess I got this idea because a couple of friends of mine did a live stream on Facebook last week, and talking through their 5 favourite albums that were issued on clear or transparent vinyl. So I had a look at what I'd got when I joined them and thought that's quite a good little selection there. So I thought I'd sort of share it. So I'm going to whiz through 5 records. They're quite diverse. Sort of, you know, you could argue that it's a random connection if the only connection is it happens to be on vinyl. There is a bit of a cluster date-wise though here, which I'll come to as we go through. Anyway, I mentioned the honourable mentions because I found I'd got another couple which I decided didn't make the cut this time. On another day or in a different mood it might have done. First is an absolute classic, Joni Mitchell Blue. Everyone knows it. This is actually a 2022, I think, reissue, and it's on clear vinyl. I'm not going to say any more about it, 'cause, as I say, everyone knows it. The next album, again, honourable mention, so I'm not going to dwell on it at all, is by the Danish band Efterklang. And this was, I think, 2021, and there's a bit of a cluster around 22 and 21. It's if you don't know them, they're sort of indie rock, but quite gentle indie rock. And this album is called Windflowers, and with some flowery stuff in the middle. So let's get down to my top 5 that I like and that I happen to have in some form of clear vinyl. And the first is from is jazz. In fact, I've got a couple of jazz ones here. They're very different. This one is a double with a download code on there, and it's by the band Portico Quartet, and it's their 2021, 2021 again, Monument. Sort of like a bit of a graphic. It's a lovely feel to this, the cover on this. It's a sort of, is it a matte laminate? Can't remember. I used to be into this sort of stuff, but anyway, so jazz, very modern jazz. They've been out for quite a long time. I've got quite a few records of them, mostly in sort of various digital formats. This is the only one I've got on vinyl. Great album, double as I say, and they're very modern jazz, but at the sort of more the gentler end of it. They're quite distinctive, and despite being called quartet, there's actually 2 of them, I think, mostly anyway. So that's that one. Let's get moving rapidly on, and completely the other end of the scale, jazz-wise, another clear one, and this one from 2022, so last year, and it is the Comet Is Coming, and their album. They always have amazing album names, so I have to look at it. So it's Hyperdimensional Expansion Beam. And this one was sort of, I suppose, I think it was my number 5 of last year of new releases out of 24 I ran down through before Christmas. They're a trilogy, a trio, and they're led by a London-based saxophonist who is in a number of other bands called, I also have to look it up, Shabaka Hutchins, and he's an amazing, you know, in sax terms, he's like a heavy metal guitarist but playing sax, and that's where this band are. If Portico Quartet are more sort of indie, gentle pop stroke rock, this is heavy metal jazz, uber modern, really, you know, really out there. They've got some great albums. I think this is their 3rd. So moving rapidly on, my number 3 is a band I mentioned on another video recently. This is not only clear, this is a very transparent, clear one. and it's by the band Low, and it's called Hey What. And you can't really see it on there, it just appears on the spine. And Low are a band that have been around for quite a long time, and their music has changed quite a bit over the years. But one of the constants has been Mimi Parker's vocals, absolutely beautiful vocals, and the harmonies she sings with her husband, Alan Sparhawk. Now, sadly, Mimi passed away from cancer last year. So this is their last album, which was produced in 2021. It's a really interesting record because there's a real juxtapose with their harmonies and her vocals against what is quite heavy distortion, and their last two albums like that, quite challenging. They've always pushed the envelope, you know, from being beautiful vocal one with some really sort of heavy challenging music going on in the background. Anyway, to my number two. Now, when I first looked at this last week for this live stream, I sort of just put this as number 5, but I've listened to it since, back to back, right through, sort of more intently than maybe I have before, and it's moved it right up. It could have been my number 1, to be honest. And it's a triple, and it's LP1 is actually gold. LP2, and this is why it gets in there, is clear, and LP3 is plain old black, and it is an album called A Paean or A Paean to Wilson, and it's by the Durutti Column, and the Wilson referred to is Tony Wilson, who of course was the founder of Factory Records and the Hacienda Club in Manchester. And there is a sort of prodigy mentor aspect here, because this guy's called Vinnie Riley, so he's the Durutti Column is essentially him, and he was the first, or they were the first band that Wilson signed up to Factory Records back in the 78 or the late 70s. They were post-punk at the time, but this is not remotely post-punk. Album was released originally in 2010, I think. This is a 2021, yet another 2021 reissue, and it's an absolutely beautiful record. It's one where, you know, despite being a triple, which obviously makes it quite a long record, it never outstays its welcome. Never gets boring. It's mostly, but not entirely, instrumental. Lots of acoustic guitar and electric, piano, strings in there, quite a bit of violin, and there's the odd track has some vocals. So, for example, the first track on the clear vinyl, so side 3, is actually a wiki cover of What's Going On, which is also then reprised on side 4. So, my number 1 is possibly my favourite band, Mogwai, and it is their 2017. So this is the outlier from my 2021 and 2022 list, and it's their album Every Country's Son, which came out in 2017. It's a double, absolutely fabulous, cool green, crossing the road material, and great album. If it wasn't that I'm really biased when it comes to Mogwai, I might well have swapped this around with the Durutti Column, which is probably the best album out of these end to end. So anyway, Mogwai always got my number 1. So there you go. There's a quick run through. Fairly, as I say, fairly random, but I thought it was a really interesting selection or choice of connection, looking at a specific vinyl colour. So thought I'd share it with you. Thanks for watching. Cheers.